Hi, my name's Danny and I'm here to talk to you about rips. They're a really important part of our beaches and they're the thing that actually causes the most work for us as lifeguards. Everyone thinks that sharks are really dangerous, but rips and people getting stuck in rips and needing to get rescued are what we deal with a lot. So what I'm going to try to explain is rip identification. But the first thing to understand is that the waves are what make our rips. As you see behind me, the waves are breaking over this shallow bank. Okay, and that broken wave is pushing waves, pushing energy. Just like when you're getting on your bodyboard or getting pushed towards the shore, all that water is getting pushed over this shallow bank and it needs to find its way back out to sea. And banks aren't flat. They're more like a upside down plate. So it's got a high point and it rounds off towards the edges. You can see this one behind me, the white water indicating our shallow water. The waves are breaking over that and they're pushing into this deeper trough on the inside section. On this side of our bank, the water's going this way towards the cliff. This is what's called a permanent rip. Now, permanent rips happen around permanent structures like cliffs, jetties and rock walls. The waves push over shallow sandbanks. The white water here is our shallow sandbank, over into our deeper trough, and that trough pulls that water over to our deep dark gap where the water finds its way back out to sea again. Okay, so this is a permanent rip. You can find them near cliffs, near breakwalls, and near jetties, and they're characterised by deeper, darker gaps. Okay, that's a really big indicator of where rips are. We have international people coming over from overseas and they're not comfortable around waves. So they go, oh, I'm not going to swim over there because there's waves. I might swim over here in this nice sort of deep, dark gap. This shallow, this pool-like place. But that's often where our rips are. It looks like a nice place to swim because there's not many waves. However, it's actually the worst place to swim because that's where the water's getting funneled back out to sea. What we want you to try to get is where the waves are breaking, because that indicates where the shallow water is. If it's shallow water, you can stand up. If it's shallow water, you're getting pushed back towards the beach and we're away from these deeper, darker gaps, where generally you won't be able to touch the bottom and the water's probably moving back out to sea in what we call a rip. Okay, so we've moved a little bit further down the beach to showcase you a different type of rip. Not all rips are the same. Our permanent rips are wedged or stuck against permanent structures. But if there's no permanent structures, there still are rips. And these ones are called fixed rips. They happen between sandbanks. So on my left here, we've got a sandbank. You can tell that by our white water pushing over our shallow bank. On my right, we've got that sandbank we looked at earlier. You can tell it's a sandbank because there's white water, pushing that water over a shallow sandbank, and then it's finding our deep, dark gap. Okay, so that's a really big indicator of what a rip is. Deep, dark gaps. You can also see a little bit of discoloured water, so sand stirred up behind me. You might see some flotsam or debris or foam floating on the top of the water and moving out to sea. Also, the water looks like it's actually fighting against itself as it's trying to find its way back out to sea. All these are big indicators of what a rip is. Deep, dark gaps between shallow sandbanks, flotsam and debris moving back out to sea, discoloured water, churning sand that looks like it's moving back out to sea. Main thing is our shallow water on each side and our deep, dark gap in the middle. But how do we get out of rips? Sometimes we can start swimming in the right place and we get pushed around and moved and all of a sudden we find ourselves in a rip. It is quite disconcerting, it's scary, it's unusual. But the big thing is to remain calm. As long as you're breathing, as long as you're on top of the water, you're going to be fine. Rips don't take you over to Hawaii. You can't get a free trip to Fiji on a rip. Once you're out past the wave zone, once you're past the broken waves, the rips lose their intensity, they lose their energy, and they dissipate, they stop. So as long as you're on top of the water and you're breathing, then you'll be fine. What you can do if you're not a strong swimmer is stay calm, put your hand up and float. These three things will help keep you alive. Staying calm means that you keep your energy so you can stay afloat for longer. As long as you're floating, you're breathing. Putting your hand up indicates that you need help. It's an international sign for assistance. Whether you're in the classroom, you put your hand up. The teacher will come and see you. Out in the ocean, you put your hand up. A lifeguard, a surfer, a passerby. Someone will see you and hopefully go get help. Your job though is to remain calm, stay on top of the water and keep breathing. Now, if you're a stronger swimmer or you're confident in the water, then there's another avenue we can take to get out of our rips. We look for this shallow water. As I've said before, shallow water is our friends. Broken waves help us. We keep our breath and we stay calm, but we might look around for that shallow water and we'd swim to that. Normally it's on each side of our rip, but this one behind me goes on an angle. So we'd probably go down the beach and work with that current. As I said before, not all rips are the same. Sometimes they go straight out to sea and they're really simple to get out of just by going across the current, looking for that shallow sandbanks. If they're on an angle, we need to keep our wits about us and swim towards that broken water. But if we're not making any headway, if we're not going anywhere, then stop doing what you're doing, stay calm and reassess. Maybe swim to the other sandbank. All right, so there is actually a third type of rip. Unfortunately, we can't showcase this one today because we haven't got the right beach bank set up. Okay, they're called flash rips and they happen when there's a big shallow bank, but there's no break in that sandbank. The water gets pushed over that shallow bank, breaking waves, just like behind me, but unfortunately, there's no break for that water to go back out to sea. So it waits. Once the sets come or a group of waves pushes over, it waits for a break and it actually suddenly flashes back out into deeper water. But we still want you to deal with them the same way. Stay calm. That's the best thing you can do when you're stuck in any type of rip. Stay calm. Flash rips actually turn off again. That's the difference between, or one of the differences between our fixed and our permanent rips, is that flash rips go on and off depending on our wave cycles. Okay? Main thing is though, flash rips occur in dumping waves, if they're breaking all at once, and if the white water is unbroken. So there's no deep, dark gaps. Another thing we want to talk about is sweeps. Sweeps are actually water moving across the sandbank. So it gets pushed over this shallow sandbank and the sweep moves along the beach trying to find those deep, dark gaps. A lot of people come up to us when we're lifeguarding and they say, oh, there's a really strong rip out there. Technically, that's not true. It's more of a sweep. Sweep is moving that water to try to find its way back out to sea through these rips. So the sweep is across the beach and the rips pull you back out to sea. Big thing though, we deal with them the same way. If you're getting pulled along in a sweep, we need to get out of that sweep. But we're not going to swim against it. We need to swim back towards the shore and then walk back between our red and yellow flags, or walk back to where we were swimming over that sandbank. We're never going to swim against a sweep because it's just like our rip current. They don't stop. Every time the waves are pushing over a shallow bank, that water's trying to find its way back out to sea again. So with the sweep, we want to get back to where we were originally swimming, and that's just by swimming back towards the shore and walking up. We're never trying to swim against our sweep back to where we started originally. Big thing though, look at the waves. Where the waves are will show you where you should be swimming. If you don't know that, then don't go swimming. Talk to the lifeguards, swim in the red and yellow flags, but make sure you understand how the rips work and how to get out of rips before you go swimming.